What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out r/, Entitled Parents. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell. And I would just like to say thank you for your support and stuff that you've thrown towards my father, who's going through some stuff at the moment. Thank you very much. It's really, really appreciated. And also, don't forget, every Sunday we do Subscriber Sunday, where we read your stories to the world. So if you've got a story to share, post it on r/DaddyCringe. And with that being said, let's get straight into today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story is from Is Glitter a Colour? The louder you scream, the longer you get to watch me eat this cookie. I'm sitting in a doctor's office waiting room while a family member is being seen. Headphones in, drooling in a notebook, nibbling on an oversized chocolate chip cookie. A woman and her maybe 3-year-old daughter sit a few seats away from me, and the kid immediately starts screaming "cookie" at the top of her lungs repeatedly. I turn my music up and try to tune it out, until the lady leans over and yanks an earbud out of my ear. I let out a "what the fuck" because it caught my earring and hurt like hell and surprised me. I just sat through a 5-minute lecture about how I shouldn't use that language in the presence of a child and how ashamed of myself I should be, and what do I have to say for myself. Meanwhile, this kid is oblivious and just screaming "cookie, cookie." I told her that I wouldn't have used that language had she kept her hands off my property and not caused me pain by almost ripping my earring out of my skin. "Well, you're going to give my daughter your cookie to make up for being so foul in front of her," and she reaches out into my lap to grab my cookie. I push her hand away, because the cookie was in a paper bag between my legs, so she was literally grabbing my crotch. And tell her she can buy her own damn cookie, and if she reaches for me or my items again, she's getting reported for harassment. The receptionist, who's been watching all this, finally speaks up and says she's willing to call the police if I'd like and back up my statement. I don't feel like dealing with that, and it seemed to calm down the mum. So now I'm sitting here listening to my music and taking the smallest bites possible and acting like this is the most amazing thing I've ever eaten while making eye contact with her. She's glaring at me and she keeps telling her kid the mean lady won't share her cookie, and I'm going to make them watch me enjoy this for as long as possible. Side note, who the hell takes food from a random stranger to give to their kid? What if this wasn't edible? What if it had medicine in it? How are people so stupid and irresponsible? Edit, I appreciate everyone who keeps PMing me offering to buy me another cookie, but if you want to do anything, send some treats to your local animal shelter or humane society for me. Our next story is from Surviving Spartan. Never tell a cashier what they can and can't do. So for some background, I work in a retail chain. Most of the time I work behind the till, mostly for 8 hours at a time. Now recently the government has been cracking down on items, knives, cigarettes, lighters, etc. being sold to people underage. In our store, it's company policy to ask for ID on these said items if they look underage. Side note, if it was found out that I had sold an item to an underage person, I would lose my job and have an investigation done by the police, looking at a criminal record if they found reason. I am not losing my job over lighters. I am in school and need the money. Me, EP, Entitled Parent. So to the entitlement. It was a regular day in the store, the tills were extremely busy and the store was making big bucks. It was around Christmas. So a customer had just finished paying and was leaving while I called for the next customer. This typical looking adult wannabe teen girl came up to my till with a few things and set them down on the conveyor belt. I began scanning her things and then I scanned the lighters. The way our system works is that when something is scanned that needs ID, the screen goes red and informs me that the customer needs to produce ID. Even gives you the date they should be born to be of age to buy the item. So I keep scanning the rest of her items, company policy, in case there's any more ID'd goods. And I get to the end of her items and then the conversation begins. I say, "Excuse me ma'am, do you have any ID on you?" EP said, "What do I need ID for?" "It's for the lighters, they're age restricted. If you have ID with you, I can check on the system and you can purchase them." She said, "Well, I don't have any ID on me. Can you just not let it go? I am over 18. Context, this woman had so much makeup on that I couldn't really tell what age she was, but to me, she didn't seem old enough. I said, "Sorry mum, I need to verify your age to make the purchase." By this stage, my till had a big line and the whole situation was starting to become a big scene. This is where it starts to get interesting. The EP says, "I'm over 18, let me take my lighters." I said, "No ID, no lighters." "You've already scanned it through, you can't take something off that's already been scanned." Never tell a cashier what they can and can't do. I look back at my computer. The woman at this point smirks, thinking she's won. I turn the computer round to her face, look her dead in the eyes as I click the big red button that says, no ID, and the lighter disappears from the list. Her mouth drops and her face goes red. I then, in my best retail voice, ask, will you be paying by cash or card? The woman explodes and shouts at me with a lot of swearing, not even going to dignify what she said. One thing she said was, my son will not have any lighters now, I hope you're happy. With that, she left without all her items and her lighters. I told my manager after, and he said I was doing my job, so I'm not in the wrong. But this is not the end. On my next shift, I get called into the manager's office, and I'm told this woman complained to the head office of the retail chain about me. Told them I verbally abused her, and that she was seriously offended and wants to get the police involved. Turned out this woman was 20, so she could have bought the lighters if she had brought ID. My manager tells me all of this smiling, but he has the biggest bombshell to drop. After he received a phone call from head office, they asked for the CCTV footage. My manager watched over the footage and heard everything, and I mean everything. Her last line before she left was of particular interest. It turned out this woman did have a son, but her son was most certainly not 18. So to cut a long story short, this woman is under investigation by police for child abuse, and if found guilty is looking at jail time. For future reference, bring your ID everywhere you go. Our next story is from New Age Philosopher. Entitled Parent Neighbours, you don't help at all, referring to us not helping with their kids. A little background, we have neighbours who are immigrants from the same country I'm from. The husband is in his early 60s and the wife is late 30s, and they have 4-year-old twins through IVF. The girl is perfectly normal, but the boy has autism, so they go to separate schools. EM neighbour is a stay-at-home mum, but unfortunately, so is my mother who is in her mid-50s. There are two parts to this story. Part 1. Last year, EM asked my mum if she could pick up her son from school, while EM picks up her daughter a couple of times in that 1 week. My mum, being the nice lady she is, she accepts and does it. Picks up boy twice that week. Then after my mum does the favour, EM asks my mum if she could help her out again next week, and loosely implies to make this a thing. Now mind you, this is unpaid. My mum was upset, but I got pissed because they were using my mum. I told my mum to cut her off completely because they're fucking neighbours, not family, and they're expecting her to do it for free. So my mum cuts EM off. Just because my mum is a stay-at-home mum doesn't mean she's going to do favours permanently. EM gets upset, but oh well, not our kids, not our problem. Part 2. 2 weeks ago, my mum and stepfather are on vacation. ED neighbour comes over, tells me he wants to cut a tree in his backyard, and asks if it's okay if some branches fall in our backyard. I call mum and stepfather and we agree that it's okay. ED neighbour cuts the tree, but it fucking falls entirely in our backyard. I was fuming. I called him and asked him when he's getting rid of it, and he has the nerve to say, end of next week. Excuse me? I call my mum and stepfather, pissed off. Stepfather calls ED neighbour to get him to clean it up the next day or two. And you know what he does? Gets pissed off at my stepfather and tells him, you never fucking help, referring us not taking care of their kids and also not helping with the tree, and tells my stepfather to fuck off. He knew he fucked up, so he got someone to help him and cleared the tree off of our yard. These neighbours are complete idiots. The whole situation got me pissed off. We are just neighbours. We have no responsibility for your kids, and also, that tree was your idea. Why the hell should I help? Our next story is from Stupid Poo Poo Head. Ian wants me to reschedule my vacation so my daughter can attend her child high school graduation. So last night, after purchasing my family's flight to an undisclosed Caribbean island for a much needed family vacation, I received a text from EM asking if I'm really going to take away my daughter during her child's graduation. A little background, our daughters are BFFs. They've known each other for 4 years and met in school. 2 years ago, my daughter experienced a traumatic event at school and we were forced to unenroll her. My daughter was supposed to graduate with EM's daughter. My daughter doesn't want to attend the graduation. It would just dredge up a lot of bad memories. So to get her mind off of all her friends graduating without her, we decided to take a trip that week. Back to the text. EM dramatically tells me that her daughter is distraught. She's crying uncontrollably and is inconsolable. She demands that we reschedule our vacation so that we can attend the graduation. She also mentions that her child is having a graduation party while we're out of town. I politely tell her that I didn't know she had planned a party, but our tickets are non-refundable and we wouldn't be there. She then goes off telling me that the graduation is more important than our vacation. I get text after text from her about this. I just didn't respond. This isn't the first entitled moment I've had with this mum. Last year she asked if she could move into our guest house with her family of 5 because we weren't using it. It's also a studio with a kitchenette and half bath. She was very upset when I declined. She's awful. Our next story is from Meest. Trying to claim my computer as yours? Get out. I live in rural Canada in a small town. I'm 15 years young and I absolutely love computers. Everything to do with them. Gaming, graphics art, video editing, building them, specs, just everything. I've had this love for computers since I turned 10. To not cause any confusion with how I afford all this expensive junk, I'm online schooled with a part-time job on the weekends. On with the story. This whole fiasco started about 2 months back when my mother was hosting a housewarming party as we had just moved back to my hometown from the big city. We didn't like it much. Lots of people were over. Lots. My aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, close friends, the whole shebang. It was a big house, so we invited lots of people. And I was not too excited for it, being a complete introvert nerd who barely leaves his dark hole of a room to get water. When this day came, I was fully prepared. I had a sign on my door, "Do not enter," in silver Sharpie. We were sadly at the black ones, with my door locked from the inside out. Yes, I went to the extent of locking my door, going out my bedroom window and coming back inside to keep people out. I was, and still am, very protective of my stuff. I don't like people touching anything. I have expensive computer parts, phone pieces and other stuff I tinker with all laying about. Essentially, not a safe location for small children or animals, except for my cat who likes to sleep around my rubble. I was waiting inside the kitchen, all cleaned up and dapper with my Rust t-shirt and Star Wars jogging pants. Yes, I know, very fancy dancy, for the guests to arrive. I wanted to make a good impression since I haven't seen most of my extended family in a long time. Everyone arrived, we greeted, all was good, I thought, until someone is trying to get into my room. She's carrying a very flashy purse, long brown hair and with her son to her side. Let's call her EM and the kid EK. I asked them, hey, can I help you guys? Oh yes, we're trying to get into this locked room. My son saw some glowing lights through the crack of the door and wants to play with it. Do you happen to have the key? She stammered, trying to wiggle the doorknob. Sorry, that doesn't actually have a key lock, and it's also locked for a reason. It's my room, Mum, I explained, getting slightly angered. Perfect, can you let little EK into the room now? Lady, I just said it's locked. I know it's locked. I don't need your life story, dear. Let us in now, she said, raising her voice a bit while she cuts me off. At this point, I'm starting to get pissed. I struggle with an idea to get her to leave my room, and I think, hey, my mum understands my privacy. She'll get rid of this pretentious ass hat. So I call my mum over from the kitchen. She was mingling with her friends. Honey, what's going on? Mum questions. Oh, hey Martha, long time no see, EM exclaims. Oh my gosh, EM, it's been how long? How are you? If you are struggling to understand how big of a mistake I just made, let me explain it for you. I started a goddamn mum chat. These can go on for hours on end, without interruptions, and I hate it with all my heart. I was now royally pissed, as I stood there awkwardly in the hall beside them. I feel pretty bad for EK at this point, having to deal with this number of a lady. The chatting finally stops after a dreadful 13 minutes, and EM successfully won Mum over to the dark side. Sorry honey, what's the problem? Mum bends over like I'm 7 to say. This lady is trying to get into my room, I stated. Oh well, let her in then. God fucking damn it. EM has the fattest smile on her face. Sure thing, Mum, I sigh as I mope around into my bedroom and unlock it from the inside. As I open my door, all of my computer lights and pieces look like gold to EK as he runs around and touches everything. I immediately sit down at my computer to try and stop the kid from touching it. His mother obviously interferes. Listen to your mother, Meest. Let him play on your device, she smirked. First off, my mother did not say he could. Meest, let him play on your computer, just for a bit, okay? My mother asks. I start to think just for a moment about this. If I let him play Roblox or something for like 10 minutes, I could probably use this against EM. Hey, EK, come sit down. Do you want to play some Minecraft or something? I say with a big old grin. He comes and sits down on my racing chair, enchanted by the waves of RGB coming off everything and anything. I let him play whatever online for about 15 minutes while his mother glares at me, stalking for anything considered rude I might do or say. After I decide I don't want EK's Cheeto dust covered fingers all over my keyboard anymore, I let him know. EK is totally fine with it and thanks me for letting him play. A genuinely nice kid. His mum decided this is wrong somehow and butts in. "What do you think you're doing, Meest? Why did you kick him off the computer?" she howls. "Mom, you watch what happened. Your son was completely fine with it, and I have work I need to get done." "No, I don't." I tried to say it as respectfully as possible. "You're way too old to have all this pink gay computer stuff. You're not gay, are you?" she screeches. Side note, I'm bi, but I haven't come out to anyone yet. Get out my fucking room, I yell, not realising I just swore very loudly. She gasps like she just witnessed a murder. "What did you say?" she roars. She decides that since I have used profanity in my room, I should no longer have my computer. My computer is mounted calmly on its table to the side. She straight up grabs the whole thing and tears it right off the desk, ripping and destroying plugs and cables. Before I'm able to do anything, she stomps at my room, right into the wall. She stubs her toe, I guess, because Ian just drops the computer onto the ground and everything is wrecked, and I mean wrecked. The case is dented, the GPU is fucked, the motherboard is now in pieces, and the RAM is nowhere to be found. She thinks it's appropriate to try and run. I hear her stammer, "Come now, EK, let's go, hurry," and out the door she goes. Everyone stops. My mum wasn't there to see what happened, and she left for the kitchen long ago, and I don't know what to do. Until I remember I have a nanny cam in my room, and it was on. It recorded the whole damn thing. Breaking property? Check. Attempt of robbery? Check. She was long gone, but not forgotten, as we now had all the evidence we needed to take her to court. A week ago from present day, we finished up with all the legal stuff I don't understand. My mum was furious with this bitch, because she knows I work for every penny that I paid for my stuff. I was never there for legal stuff, as I was visiting my dad across the province. But according to my mum, she took her to court and made her pay, literally. All of my parts, pieces and doodads were reimbursed, and she was given community service. I just hope the kid is alright. Our next story is from Motherhood, estimated 2017. Lady gets mad I bought my son an aeroplane seat. I believe this goes here. It turned really long. I sincerely apologise. So I have a son who is currently 2.5 years old, but we've been travelling by plane since he was 6 months old, due to our living 18-hour drive from my family, parents, younger sibling, grandparents, etc. In the US, you generally don't need to buy a plane ticket for a child under 2 years old. You can buy a seat, like if you want to bring your baby in their carrier or just want to use a car seat, but they can also be considered a lap child and sit on your lap for free. When my son was 1.5 years old, we were flying back to my hometown to visit my family. We're flying on an airline named the opposite of Northeast. On this airline, an adult with a child under 6 years old gets to board right after the A1 to 10ish boarding numbers and before the A11 to 60 or whatever it is, which was helpful for me to get some extra time to find a seat and settle with my kid. Now, he was under 2, so he could have flown for free and sat in my lap, but after the flight we had taken a few months before that, where he was hell on wheels and I was mortified by how terrible we probably made our roommates' flights, I decided to buy him a plane ticket so we could have a little more room for our things. Diaper bag, toys to entertain him, snacks, juice/breast milk, blanket, etc. I hated to feel like I was inconveniencing other passengers with my child when I had to keep him to such a small confined space to begin with. It was better to give him some extra room in the form of his own seat, so as not to crowd others when he wanted to get out of my lap or try to look out the window, etc. Plus then I could sit between him and provide a buffer for his wayward feet. He was generally, and still is, a good little traveller, but every 1.5-year-old has their moments, as other parents can understand. I swear I do my best to keep him under control. If you've never flown with a child under 2 as a lap child, you should know that when you go to check your bags at the airport, you normally get a boarding pass for yourself as well as a boarding pass for the child that clearly says lap infant across the top of it. Otherwise, if you buy your child a ticket, they can get a normal boarding pass like everybody else with your boarding group/number. This airline has rows of 3 seats on either side of a very narrow aisle. I tend to stick to the far back rows just in case I need to leave the seat with him when we're in the air, and also try to put some distance between us and other passengers. So we board with family boarding. I grab 2 seats all the way in the very back row, shove all of our stuff into the seat and go about trying to settle our things in. My son decided to sit in the seat nearby the window and was watching the ground crew do their thing. I was sitting in the middle seat beside him, the aisle seat was empty, and the plane started to fill up. But again, we were the very last row, so most people found a seat before they made it to us, and/or saw I had a kid with me and decided to sit elsewhere. I can't blame them. When the plane was 3/4 full, I hear someone say, excuse me, in a rather snobby voice. I turned to see a woman, maybe 30s, I'm in my early 20s, with a little girl maybe 7 to 8 years old. Before I could even respond, the entitled mother demands I move to the aisle seat and take my son with me so that her daughter could sit by the window. I want to say that if my son was flying free and was a lap infant, I wouldn't have had an issue with moving to an aisle seat to let the little girl sit by the window if the mum had asked me nicely. However, I'd purchased 2 tickets with my own money, which isn't easy to swing when you're a single mum, and even if I moved to the aisle seat, my son would have had the middle seat and she'd have to sit apart from her daughter. I was not going to be used as a babysitter for someone else's kids on a flight, even if I didn't have my own child to deal with. I tried to explain this to her. Went a little something like this. I said, "Oh, I would, but I bought 2 seats, and even if I move, there'd only be 1 seat open, so you might want to try somewhere else so you can both sit together." There were still entire rows that were empty on this plane at this point. The entitled mum said, "You're lying, he's clearly not even 2 yet, and under 2 fly free and sit on your lap. Please move, now." I said, yes, they can fly for free on your lap, but I specifically bought him his own ticket so he could have his own seat and more room. There are several rows a bit farther forward and are still empty and have window seats. She said, "Well, he's small, you should just hold him. My daughter wants to sit by the window and I need to be in the last row, so just hold him so we can sit here." The very back row on the other side was taken up already. I said, "I'm really sorry, but no, we need the extra space. I bought and paid for the extra seat. I'm not going to give up just because you feel entitled to this space. Our things are already settled and stowed away." At this point, EM is working herself up into a tizzy and has caught the attention of the older couple sitting across the aisle. The husband tries to tell this EM just to choose somewhere else to sit, but she snapped at him to mind his own business. Kind of hard inside such a small space. So when she turned her attention back to me, and my now fussing child because this strange lady is yelling at mummy, the wife waved down one of the flight attendants who came over, and that went along the lines. She said, "Hello, are we all okay over here?" The EM said, "No, this girl refused to put her son in her lap to make room for us even though he's clearly less than 2 and can fit in her lap." The flight attendant turned to me, "Mum, is your child a lap infant?" I said, "He's less than 2 years old," and the EM said, "See, I told you, make her move." And then I said, "But I did purchase a ticket because I knew you'd appreciate having some extra space to get out of my lap." I grabbed both our normal paying customer boarding passes and handed them to the flight attendant. "See?" She said, "That doesn't prove anything. They give boarding passes for lap infants." The flight attendant turning back to EM. "Yes, they do give boarding passes for lap infants, but this is not a lap infant boarding pass. So I'm sorry, she has paid for that seat. There is no assigned seating, so you can't ask her to move." The EM started going crazy and screaming at me, at the FA. Her kid is crying, but I think it may have been more out of embarrassment than that the flight attendant was telling them no. Anyways, the flight attendant ended up threatening to have her removed from the plane by air marshals if she didn't find a different seat. EM huffed angrily, promised to write a terrible review, and told the FA specifically she was going to call the opposite of Northeast Airlines corporate office and have her fired for treating EM and her daughter so poorly. The daughter did get her window seat further up the plane. The flight attendant rolled her eyes where only I and the older couple could see, and she apologised. The rest of the flight went smoothly. My kid laughed when the plane took off and then passed out in his own seat with his head on my leg about 20 minutes into the flight and slept the whole time, and the flight attendant gave me a complimentary glass of wine once he was asleep. I told the pilots at the end of the flight how wonderful she is. I saw EM in the airport afterwards as we made our way to baggage, berating a cleaning staff member because the airport Burger King was closed at 11:30 PM. As if the poor staff member even had control over that to begin with. I pointed a TSA person towards them and went on my merry way to see my not-so baby sister. This was about a year ago and I haven't thought about it really since until one of my co-workers said something that reminded me of it, so I decided to share. Sorry it was so long. Our next story is from Razor89. Ian wants me to pay for her upgrade and harasses me for being part German. I, 29 male, am travelling about once or twice a month from Germany to visit my father in Spain. He spends his well-earned retirement there. I am self-employed, running 2 businesses, and since both are running very good at last month, so I am glad to afford flying that often to him. I always fly in business class, BC, with the known German air carrier group, given the fact that I can check in 2 pieces of luggage, since I like to bring a lot of stuff back from Spain, for example cheese, sausages, foods, fruits from my father's trees there, etc., after my 3 to 5 day stay. There is a certain route for flights to Spain from Germany, which is very convenient for me since I am saving a lot of money, up to €250 for a return ticket in business class. Downside with this offer is that I have to take an early flight, 6:30 am, and have a stopover in Zurich, Switzerland, so I have to be at 5 am at the airport for dropping off my luggage. So one morning in March, I got up around 4 am, got myself ready for the cab I ordered. The cab arrived on point and dropped me off around 4:50 am at the airport. Since the check-in counter would open around 5 am, I got in line, which at this time in the morning was completely empty. I was the first in line. Around a few minutes prior to the opening of the counters, I saw a mother, later revealed as EM, with a kid struggling with the luggage machines at the economy luggage drop-off. Minding my own business, I continued looking at my phone to check some mail. Suddenly, I got cut in line by EM with her kid. I said, "Excuse me mum, you have to wait until it's your turn." The EM said, "Don't you see that I have a child and I don't have to wait therefore?" I'm pretty sure that having a child doesn't give you any rights to cut someone standing in line. Please wait until it's your turn. Oh my god, leave me alone you perv. Apparently, this dialogue caught the attention of the airport staff, AS, which came over to find out what the issue could be, and so he asked me first, "Is there a problem, sir?" I said, "Well, and then the EM cuts me off. "Why are you asking him first? I'm the victim here, he cut me in line." I said, "Well, that's not true. I'm patiently waiting here since 4:50 am for the counter to open up, when she suddenly came out of nowhere, cutting me in line." The airport staff said, "Mom, could I see your ticket please?" AS was starting to smile after he saw EM's ticket as she gave it to him. "Mom, this is the wrong check-in counter for you. You're flying in economy class and have to use the luggage drop-off machines over there." She said, "So, I am a mother with a child. I have the right to stand here in line to drop off my luggage as well as he does." I handed him over my phone, showing him my ticket, which states business class/FT. FT equals frequent traveller. AS said, "This gentleman has every right to stand here in line. I'm not going to ask you again to leave." The EM said, "I won't leave. Leave me alone." Then the counter opened up, and EM ran faster than the speed of light to the worker at the desk, trying to check in their luggage. I just told the AS, "Don't worry, it's okay, I'm not in a rush. I'm sure she will be sent away shortly by the counter staff." A second worker at another counter waved at me, and I went to her. She was asking what all that ruckus was about, and I told her what happened. She giggled, and I was able to drop off my luggage without any problems. When I got asked if I want a boarding pass also printed on paper, I gladly said yes, since you know that Murphy's Law could occur at all times in life. P.E. when your phone dies on your trip. As she went to give me my boarding pass, EM came over to me and shouted, "You pay for my upgrade." I said, "Excuse me?" "You heard me. I deserve it way more than you to fly in business class." I said, "Are you for real? I won't pay for your upgrade. I don't know you, and apart from that, you were really rude to me earlier on, called me a perv and cut me in line." "Then give me your ticket." "I won't do that. Have a nice day, lady." I grabbed my boarding pass and left, hoping I never saw that crazy lady again. While EM apparently had other plans in mind, she followed me to the security check, and I got a call from my girlfriend. While on the phone, she kept cussing and swearing at me. "You're a terrible person. How could you be so rude to me and my child?" And by far the craziest thing she said was, "You sure stole that money to buy that ticket. No chance in hell a young criminal like you could afford something like that." And this is the part where I got slightly angry, but didn't lose my cool. "Mom, you don't know who I am or what I do for a living. You have absolutely no right to say these things to me just because you might be jealous of me." Oh boy, I wish I hadn't have said that. EM got really mad and started kicking my hand luggage. After that, she tried to grab my boarding pass. After she grabbed it, she quickly tried to grab her kid and ran off to the security gates. Luckily, the airport staff/security, which helped me before, was watching the whole thing again and stopped her right in front of the gates. Afterwards, the airport police had been called and I was asked if I want to press charges against her. Seeing a little kid being really embarrassed about the whole situation, I decided I won't do that. EM afterwards began to start an absolute meaningless discussion about how a criminal foreigner like me can fly like this, while she as a single mother has no support or anything. I have slightly darker skin since my mother was part Asian and my father was German. I grabbed my stuff, passed through the gate and went to the toilet. Afterwards I wanted to eat some breakfast at the lounge. On my way to the lounge I again encountered EM with her kid. It wonders me until this very day how someone mentally unstable like her got past the security check after acting like a spoilt teenager. Again, she saw me and this time she tried to follow me, thinking I wouldn't notice her. Well, joke's on her, I went straight to the lounge and got rid of her. When I entered the lounge, I then asked the lounge counter if my boarding gate has been announced yet. During that time, I heard EM screaming and whining through the massive glass doors of the lounge, yelling louder than I ever heard her before. "That was my friend! He knows me, and I'm sure he will confirm everything." Well, I couldn't be bothered with that anymore, so I sat down in an empty chair, plugged in my headphones and listened to some music, while getting some breakfast. Suddenly, a lounge employee went through the lounge, asking other guests if they knew anything about the lady outside. That was getting way out of hand, so I went to that lady and explained what happened at the check-in counter and security gates. EM got eventually sent away by the airport police. After enjoying my stay, I went to the gate for boarding, and again, the universe seemed to have so much joy tormenting me. I saw EM at the same gate again. This time, I tried to avoid being seen by her, so I tried to walk around her and got in line for the priority boarding line. Then the announcement came for the boarding to start, and I quickly got onto the plane, but bad luck strikes again. The plane has been swapped from an Airbus A321 to an Airbus A320, meaning that every passenger has to enter the plane via one door at the front, instead of two separate ones, meaning EM would see me when she got onto the plane. I decided that would be a good time to go to the bathroom, so I asked the FA if it would be possible. She said no problem, and I went there, hoping she would pass me once I got out. Well, joke's on me. When I got out, nobody else boarded the plane for some reason. I got back to my seat and hoped for the best. Suddenly everyone, and I mean everyone, was having eyes wide open as they hear the EM's loud and squeaky voice during the hallway to the plane. To make matters worse, I sat in 1A, meaning that it would be most likely for her to spot me, and for completion of all that trouble, her kid saw me first, then she did. I took a deep breath and thought, this would be the longest 45-minute flight to Switzerland that I ever had. Immediately after she spotted me, she tried to screw me over again, starting an unexpectedly civil conversation that I would sit in her seat. "Excuse me sir, I believe you're sitting in my seat." I said no, I don't. Look at my boarding pass. She then took it away from me and claimed to the flight attendant that I would have tried to screw her over. What a total bullshit situation. The FA then looked at the name of the boarding pass and asked the EM if she realised that there is a male name on the boarding pass. Shortly after, I reached into my purse and showed her my ID card. Afterwards, she claimed that it would have been an error in the carrier system, since she states that she booked this seat row for her and her kid. She then just sat down next to me in the row with her child, saying she would not move since I would not have deserved to fly with better service since she has a child. Long story short, FA gave her a last warning, then she should stop right now with this nonsense or else she and her child would be kicked off the plane. Suddenly she was calm like a sheep and left me alone. Shortly after takeoff, when breakfast was served, the FA from before came to me and apologised for the disturbance. I said to her that she has no need to worry, as it wasn't her fault, and told her crazy people always think they're right. At the end I got to Spain on time and was very happy that I could enjoy some time with my dad. The next story is from Maddo134. Ian thinks I'm possessed by Satan because of my deaf left ear. Backstory, I was born with my left ear beating deaf. Nothing wrong with it, it's just that the tube connecting the brain and ear is too thin for sound to pass. People don't treat me differently, I don't get bullied for it, my life is technically as normal as yours. Until now. Cast EM, you know who, me, the almighty, 14-year-old girl. I was at a train station waiting for the train to go home. I was listening to music and not doing anything to disturb anyone. Note that because of my deaf ear, I only put the headphone on one ear. Enter the person you're waiting for, with her offspring, on my left side. EM says something I cannot hear, and I don't notice her. EM starts screaming. Me finally noticing and taking off my earphone. I'm sorry, what? EM said, I said, stop listening to music, it is disrespectful. You kids and your technology are just trying to show off your money. Me, already tired of her, miss, I have all the rights in the world to listen to music, now please leave me alone, and I put my earphone back on. EM keeps screeching things that I cannot hear, and I ignore her. EM screams in my left ear. Note, while it may be blocked, high sounds will hurt more than a normal ear. I will explain if needed. I take off my earphone. Yo, what the fuck? EM said, stop pretending you cannot hear me. Your left ear is out in the open, idiot. I look at the offspring, who looks embarrassed. I said, this ear is deaf, which means I cannot hear from it. At this point, she looked shocked. I thought it was because I screamed back, but apparently no. She said, Satan! You are possessed by Satan! I said, what? She said, the left is Satan's side. You are possessed by him. Me, calmly. So let me get this straight, with an exaggerated voice. The almighty Satan, king of hell, source of all wrongdoing, with a normal voice, would take the body of a young girl who has a disability as a host. I think she was coming back to her senses because she stormed off without saying a word. 100% works. Wow, some of these stories, man, they just get crazier and crazier, especially Entitled Parents. We're used to Entitled Parents now. They're always crazy stories. What was your favourite from today's bunch of stories? I think my favourite has to be the first one where she's just eating a cookie and she stares at them afterwards and just slowly eats that cookie. It's got a little bit of malicious compliance to it as well. I think that's why I really enjoy that one. How about you guys? Which was your favourite of today's bunch? And as always, if you've made it this far into today's story, include Fancy Dancy in your comments somewhere below. Wow. And I'm not sure, I've been enrolled in some sort of new YouTube thing, this applause thing, and someone's actually used it in the last video. But unfortunately, YouTube doesn't show me who it was, because it donates like a amount of money. And it doesn't show me who's done that. So if it was you, please put your name in the comments below. I'd love to tag you at the end of a video for that, because it's mind-blowing. I'd never expect money from you guys. I do this out of love for you all and because I really enjoy it. So I never expect it, but it's always appreciated. Thank you so much for that once again. If you've enjoyed, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell. And I will see you in the next one. Much love, guys.